Okay, I'm here with Ellen Mann and Kelley Gray, two people that have an abundance of wisdom to offer people in general in life and from what they do. So, Ellen, can you say quickly what you are, who you are, what you do?
Well, who I am is Ellen Mann, and I'm a clinical social worker, and I've been working in outpatient work and as a therapist for quite some time. Graduated in 1997 when I was 4.
Yep.
Anyhow, and so I've been doing
Prodigy.
this for a long time, and I'm excited to get to be with you guys today.
And you, Kelley Gray?
I am Kelley Gray, and I have been in psychotherapy in the Denver area for almost 20 years now. And I have just made the switch in the last year from private practice over to being an intensive outpatient therapist at Restoring the Soul.
That's very cool. So you two have a very interesting worldview based on what's happening in the world right now. You guys spend a lot of time with people walking in to you and you saying, let's go inside and figure out kind of what's going on. But now you kind of are looking around at the world, and a lot of people are having to go inside. They're all kind of joining into the office right now because there's less distractions. They obviously have to be around certain people all the time, that kind of thing. And so you got a lot of people that may or may not have wanted to go within themselves to understand it, and now are in a situation where the distractions can't keep them from it. As you're doing your work and hearing stories from people, what do you find is presenting as what they're experiencing? What are the primary emotions or the things that you see coming up in people as you're working with them?
Well, I think having all of this time really focusing within and staying within means less busy getting out of the house, getting distracted by tasks and duties and loyalties. So what I've seen happen is that they're starting to, by virtue of, say, separation from all of those distractions, to look within and to look within the home, within the dynamics with their children or partners, spouses, and maybe even the relationship with self-care. So I think that has been, sometimes people I've seen, they're going into a place like, this couldn't have been a better thing for me. I finally have a chance to read my books and take my notes and get in contact with some of my own personal goals, because otherwise I'm overextended. Some people are realizing that there can be that particular benefit, and because they're adjacent and next to people who maybe aren't doing that, we're seeing sort of, oh my goodness, I'm in a contrasting relationship now. Rather than we're both distracted and we're both kind of treading water, one of us is kind of checking out and I'm checking in, and oh no, who am I really as I'm looking at this more objectively. And I think how people feel kind of depends on which route they go. So some people are feeling a little bit more complete. They're feeling more, in touch because they're not overextended or pleasing so many people. Some people are kind of falling into themselves because without those duties and without feeling like they have to perform for others, maybe there's a little bit of anxiety. Well, then how do I really matter? And what do I do with myself? And some people are going into numbing because of that. And so sleeping a lot, really disconnecting from some of maybe what would be helpful to them. The other thing I'm seeing is that some, without all of these distractions and being carried away from themselves, they're also realizing it's like because it's putting that relationship under a microscope, some of the people are realizing, oh my goodness, this person's taken advantage of me for a long time. I've been actually doing too much to make this thing work. I've been putting up with a type of conflict style that now I can't leave. So if the conflict style is stonewalling, or it's got a lot of contempt or mockery in it, or it has a lot of defensiveness and a lot of manipulation and criticism in it, people aren't able just to get away and go into their offices or their duties and loyalties, etc. And so what's really happening to me? So there's that great awareness. That's hard, and it's a hard gift at times.
That's really well said. That's really well said. What about you, Kelley? I know you're in a different environment. How does that present differently?
Yeah, I am definitely seeing a lot of anxiety in people. And so I would say I feel like whatever has been kind of like kept at bay, and definitely because of the lack of options, because we can't run out and get away from things. Whatever has been just kind of like stuffed in those backroom closets, I say, that stuff is coming forward more, and that can be extremely overwhelming to people. They don't know what to do with all of that material that's coming up, if it's anxiety, depression, a difficult relationship. It's revealing what has been just under the surface, and there's such a gift that can come from that, but of course you have to have support in order to open that gift, because otherwise it feels unmanageable and overwhelming, and it doesn't at all feel like a gift. But
Sure.
Getting some assistance and being able to work through that with a therapist or healthy friends is just what people need. They just need additional support for that.
So from both, it sounds like something that is walking in is kind of a sense of fear. What's happening, right? If somebody's sitting there saying, what's happening? Why all of this stuff that's coming up in me? What would be the thing that you would say is the first step to accepting that and starting to move forward in it?
Accepting if they're having fear, and being able to let the fear maybe not control the front seat, control the car and control the dials. I like how Elizabeth Gilbert says the fear can be there and I can acknowledge it, but it has to stay in the back seat.
Yeah.
And so in her book, Big Magic, I thought that was just super well said. And I think a lot of people are trying to find out, how do I acknowledge the fear and let it teach me a little something about what I'm needing or what I'm going through, and not avoid the feeling, but to let it teach me something about what have I been using to be okay in my life that I can't access. I've definitely looked at that and translated that for myself, and it's been both hard and freeing. I think sometimes when fear is in the front seat, there are all kinds of practices to kind of get it out of there into the back seat that I think people have really found helpful. So,
yeah, I've had this conversation with a couple people and even a couple different therapists that right now it feels like we really need some concrete, we need to name things in a very concrete way. And so people who used to just be able to formulate those thoughts or really define it in their minds, here's what I'm anxious about. A lot of people are going back to journaling. People who had left journaling and thought that was something in their past, it can be very helpful to just concretely name and or at least just put down your clues of, when this is coming up, when this is coming up, when this is coming up, I feel really activated, or I'm feeling really upset or overwhelmed. And just being able to kind of like pull the thread, solve it, and work towards solving the mystery of what is the deeper thing that's going on, what's coming up within me, what are my unmet needs, what are the lies I'm believing around this, what are the wounds that I have. So making it concrete by actually putting it down and then sharing it with others is enormous. Letting other people in on your pain and secret.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, that the secondary things that are lighting up the thing behind the thing are the relationships, the work, the family, the having to stay home. All of those things are, as you said, revealing what was already there. And so that starts driving people inward. What do you think it is? I've actually talked to both of you about this. Collectively, a lot of people are really struggling with this loss of control, right? This is and you have said that, Mary Ellen, this is a study in loss of control and adaptability. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think, the way I've seen mental health defined is through flexibility and resiliency. And I think that if we don't have a lot of choices, or we don't have as much control, it'll pull us back into some either rigid reactions or rigid thoughts. And I think when people say, yeah, it's nice that I can, I guess, get some private time, but I really want to be able to have these choices, and those are all shut down now. So that can actually be a big trigger for people. So kind of like the concept that my resiliency, I had resiliency. It was through my ability to do 10 things a day. That was, or my adaptability, and I had my choices, and that felt like that was kind of masking what looked like resiliency. And I forget the other word because the degree. Flexibility.
There's that one.
Yeah.
It's a good word. I like that. What would you say to that about adaptability and loss of control?
Well, wise people or wise clinicians generally all agree that control is an illusion, that life can change at any moment, and that being present and awake and available in each moment that we're in to meet whatever challenge is arising in the moment is that is part of my view of mental health. And this is truly, I mean, it is a broad scale general experience of loss of control. And so it really does reveal how able you are to be present and awake and available to the present moment that you are in. I don't know what else I want to say about that.
Well,
I'm not sure we answered your question exactly.
I liked all your words, so I feel like you answered lots of things.
Okay.
But it's an interesting thing because you guys are you're the pole. There's two counter forces that I see happening right now. One of them is the desire to capitalize off of fear by companies, individuals, all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm seeing that all over the place in the sense of going, we need to take a good look at marketing heuristics and understand that you're not thinking, it's thinking for you, right?
Yeah.
And your only end result is to be scared when given the information in this format, right? And then on the flip side of it, so you got people that want to capitalize off that, like, we're all going to die, so give me your money before you do, kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the people over here that are in your corner that are saying, yeah, the fear is there, but how do we take this and transition into something that can then be something that you move forward with, right? So what role do you see as you look at that? I know that you guys are people of faith, and I know that people of faith come and talk to you. How do you see this coming together, this fear-faith thing coming together in very real practice under pretty significant, intense situations?
Well, I mean, I think people that are seeking counseling, typically they have other things going on. There are things in play. And so actually one of the most common things I'm hearing, whether people are actually choosing to come into my office, which they're kind of dancing at the opportunity to get out and see someone live, and so regardless of the virus and whether I'm a carrier and I'm doing all my wipe downs and everyone can wear a mask and all these things, but that they're here because their world is kind of almost feeling superimposed and controlled by this a bit, yet they've had other things that have been in play that have created quite a crisis, whether it's dealing with school and learning issues, dealing with dynamics and people that they realize they can or cannot, they cannot trust anymore. They're dealing with histories coming back profoundly. And so when I ask them, how are you dealing with this? They're like, really? Compared to everything else I've had on the table, this is just nothing. So as there is marketing or preying upon fear, somehow a lot of the people I'm dealing with are not actually buying it. And I don't know if that's just the state of like people who do seek outpatient therapy, which I've always told them, they're the smartest, best people I know and the bravest people I know.
Absolutely.
Because they're already kind of translating reality a little deeper. And so I would say that they have an eye for kind of an analyzing and remaining objective in the middle of this. So their stuff is, how do I deal with the trauma of this or that situation? So they're happy to get the counsel and the contact. A lot of the work that I do with people, regardless of the fear being related to something like this virus, in addition to their own trauma, etc., and crisis, is physical, then physical, spiritual, then physical, spiritual, psychological. So I try to go into the physical as in getting the body calm and comforted. Then we go into identity work, like I'm worthy, worthwhile, I'm lovable, I have intelligence, I can succeed and trust my judgment, I can choose who to trust, I now have choices, I'm designed for good things, I'm designed for dignity and honor, to change and grow. So we work, that's where my spiritual stuff is really looking at identity. And identity for me has a spiritual connection around innate worth and innate, that human beings are innately good and they're wanted and they're here on purpose. And so I have such a passion for it being something that they can extend to an actual faith religious practice. I have passion for them deciding not to do that. And so if they can look at themselves in the mirror and go, okay, this is good, it's fine as it is, it's fine the way it is, then that to me is the faith practice. And because then I believe people are agreeing with God. People are realizing they're formed from something really beautiful and good, benevolent, intelligent, vast, and people are getting rooted back into that concept. So, but a lot of times until the physical self is calmer, we can't quite access innate worth and identity work, which again is spiritual. And then I go into the other stuff that,
well, you're kind of hitting on the
working relationships and so forth.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting on the process of expansion, right? Is that when our bodies are in a state of fear, it's rough to make a good decision, right? Like if I'm running from the bear, like the bear's in the forest and I run over the glass to get away, that's smart, right? But if the bear wasn't there and I would have had a couple extra seconds before the fear to put the shoes on, fear just has it, and biologically it does. But you're kind of talking about the point is that when we're shut down physically, it's like a very small opening, right? So you're doing the work of calming it down from a nervous system. And Kelley, I would love to hear what you have to say on that too. And then moving into identity, it's expansive. You're creating more freedom, right? More freedom to think.
Out. And I think that one of the things that I do a lot of, and I've needed to do, is if I'm getting rid of one habit, I need to apply another. So I need to crowd out the problem. I need to crowd out those choices. I need to crowd out that thinking process. So we're not saying that's not real, that hard thing, that hard, that insecurity, that preoccupation, the self-consciousness isn't real, or the trauma or the haunting isn't real. We're just crowding it out. So giving it some more room on the page inside your mind, and so that it's more marginal as the person goes within and looks within. And
you're essentially like a junior neuroscientist, like basically with all the things that you've done on brain research, which I appreciate very much about you. So I would love to hear about that.
I did a question the other day on the sympathetic nervous system. Was it sympathetic? Yeah.
I've heard that word before. I'm excited to hear what it means again. Please, do tell.
The thing that I'm wanting to say about this is that I'm just big on, in myself and in teaching others, to be very suspect and to work really hard on observing your own automaticity, just our own automatic reactions to things. Because yes, in fear and in overwhelm and just in a general cultural panic that we are living in, it does make you do want to constrict and contract. And so when you can notice that and not be cruel to yourself, not be shaming to yourself at all, but just bring awareness to that moment and try to just increase the amount that you're breathing in that moment, and that begins that expansion. So just growing in awareness, and then yes, making decisions that move out of that fear or move contrary to that fear. And so something that we're talking about at my house a lot is, how do we fight this back with love or with generosity and creativity? That has just been in our pretty much in our daily prayers for, because if the automatic response is, how do I constrict and hold my toilet paper and hold my paper towels, to fight that back and not necessarily give it all away, because we have to still care for ourselves, but to say, how can I meet someone else's need? How can I be loving towards someone else? Because it's so synergistic when you start adding in the positive and crowding out that negative. It is so contagious to others, and it makes you such a light. And so,
right. How much of that shift do you think will contribute to a long-lasting change for people?
I have a hope that it will. I don't know. I mean, I have no prediction, but I do believe that people who are taking this opportunity to be more still and to be a being rather than a doing or thinking and making tons of plans, but just being, I absolutely know that they're going to benefit. And there's not like a performance pressure in that. It's the anti-performance that we're all being invited to right now. But I'm seeing friends who were busy with work that are now just saying, okay, I take walks, and then I text and check on everyone, and then I just hold the dog longer than I ever have before in my life. And I have to believe that is going to have a beautiful, positive, lasting impact on them.
Agreed. What about you, Mary Ellen?
No, I think that's really sweet, and I think, if there have been people who have been more the house maintainers, I'm seeing that there's in some cases, people are like, you've really been working hard behind the scenes. Like, there's a lot that's going on here all the time. So I think there's a deeper appreciation in some regard. I think that, yes, that idea of walking together and bike riding and things that, goodness, you know, we didn't realize that one of our kids outgrew his bike because we haven't been biking in so long. I was like, I'm so sorry, little guy. And so, you know, because we are often doing this with lacrosse and this with football or theater or piano or whatever. And so it is go time the second the weekend hits, and then it's lots of afternoons filled with things and running around and then working full time. My husband and I think that idea of being and appreciating, it is wonderful to realize all that we have and all that's already functional. That's one of my practices that I use a lot. Like, the air is working and the sun is working and the floor is working and the walls are here and the ceiling's here and that animal is really cute and those kids are really great, and things that are usually duty oriented or action oriented are at a standstill to really soak them in and make memories. So I've been doing vision boards. I've been doing we're plotting and planning a garden, things that would have been harder for us to do before. So I love it, the idea of being. And I think, again, it has been for some people realizing, oh my goodness, microcosmically, this is difficult and I've got more fish to fry than I thought. And in some cases it's, oh my goodness, look at all the functional, wonderful things that are happening that I really don't have time to absorb. So I've loved seeing that.
Well, you guys have given just a ton of wisdom. I've learned a lot in hearing this. So thank you so much for sitting and talking through it. You guys' perspectives are so unique and they work together so beautifully to present different sides of it. So thank you so much for sitting here for this.